So, what I know from coaching over the last 20 plus years is that most breakthroughs that people have, first there was courage. Life is generally set up to reward courage, to reward that leap of faith. So you win some and you lose some, but the overall direction of things is upwards if you're that courageous person. The misconception, of course, is that courage is the opposite of fear, that once there's no more fear, you can then finally take the leap and be courageous. But strictly speaking, courage is not the absence of fear, it is taking the leap. It's acting in spite of fear, in the face of fear. It's the courageous act itself that overcomes the fear. The courage to face it is what dissolves the fear. Walking up to that which you're afraid of and facing it. So it doesn't make any sense to say that you'll wait to be courageous until you have no more fear. That's not courage. That's just something else. That's relaxation or feeling at ease. Take, for example, bungee jumping. So you're standing at great height, waiting to jump down some tower, and most of you will feel some trepidation and tension. So what do you do when you feel trepidation and tension? Well, there's two paths you can take. You can either back off and decide you don't want to jump anymore, or you jump in spite of your fear. When you feel that adrenaline rush, that new experience, and a rewiring of your mind through the release of chemicals in your body, and then finally the realization that you survived. And then you might do it again, and the fear will be less because it's already wired in your brain. The link is already made that this activity is nothing to be afraid of. So you might still feel a little bit tense if there was a trauma regarding it, and you jump again. And on the third jump, you feel even less tense, and you jump again, and you jump again, and you jump again, until eventually what happens? It gets boring. Just boring. So you might go up to excitement even, and enthusiasm for jumping, and then eventually it's just a jump, and it's within your comfort zone, and doing so will no longer help you grow. So you quit jumping because you've integrated it. That's what we call integrating realities. You will forever survive, by the way. The soul is invincible. There is no such thing as annihilation of the soul. Sure, there might be a case in which the fear is so overwhelming that you freeze or panic, get cramps in the body and you can't jump. And in such cases, it's not really yet time to face the fear. That's then not courage, it's just craziness because it's too much, it's overwhelming fear. So in that case, you either dismiss the activity as harmful at this point, and you take that overwhelming fear as a sign that it's not good for your survival. You see, there are genuine fears and neurotic fears. Genuine fears are there for your protection. Not all fears are bad. Some protect you. If you're terrified of entering a cave full of poisonous giant spiders, then that fear is helping your body stay alive. It's a valid and genuine fear, not one you need to transcend through acts of courage. And people often mistake the two. However, 90% of the fears we walk around with in modern society are neurotic, meaning there is no valid reason for them other than the mental constructs you have around a certain subject. And in that case, what you can do is you either break it down into baby steps. So taking the example of bungee jumping, you'd first jump from lesser heights, from say 5 meters or something, until you feel comfortable with that. And then you'd gradually increase the height all the way up to the height you were originally afraid of. So you just take baby steps, you chunk it down, and that applies to anything, not only bungee jumping, of course. You chunk things down into small, edible, digestible steps that feel better to you. Or let's say you're afraid of speaking in front of people, so you'd first practice public speaking in front of a very small group, and then increasingly bigger groups, integrating each level of challenge along the way. That's what life is meant to be, integrating each level of challenge along the way. And the second way to go, if you're overwhelmed by fear, instead of facing it and practicing courage, is to mentally and emotionally release it. I have a video on that. It's called How to Stop Fear. And that process, that video, will assist you in authentically embracing and letting go of any inner issue that stop you from acts of courage. Okay, but when the fear is reduced down to a manageable level, the rest of the path is done by taking that step, making that leap. You just want to make sure that the leap is not too far. Okay, that it's a leap of faith that can be done without damage to yourself or others. There's many things in life that you are not having, not experiencing, because you do not have the courage. Courage comes from the heart, and it overrides worries of the mind. Courage liberates you from oppressive situations. So if you like, make a list of things you were afraid to do or afraid to say that if you did them would improve your situation. And then simply go and do them or say them. Check off that list step by step. Not all in one day or 1 week, just gradually, as slowly as you can handle. There's no need to overwhelm yourself. In fact, overwhelming and straining yourself might get you damaged or injured, and then you'll never do consciousness expansion again. You'll never do acts of courage again. And that's why I'm always a fan of going gently and smoothly, incrementally, instead of radically. And then if you're too terrified to do or say an item on your list, you imagine a better outcome than the one you were envisioning. Because all fear is created by how you think of things. I'm sorry, not all fear, most fear, the 90%. Most fear is nothing more than chemicals in your body reacting to dark thoughts rather than reacting to an actual threat out there. And as you begin checking off your list of courageous acts, what happens? Well, you feel a marked increase in your mood, in your sense of aliveness and ability, and your sense of actually following your main life's purpose, which is a purpose that you share with all other people, which is the expansion of consciousness, not resting in your comfort zone. That is not the purpose of life, and yet many people spend their entire lives in their comfort zone with things they already know, things they're already familiar with, things that are safe, things that don't rock the boat, and so forth. You see, the nervousness you feel about some of these things is actually energy, and that's not a bad thing. Just because you're nervous doesn't mean the world has ended, okay? It's a good thing. It means you're growing. It means there's some trepidation there. You are challenging yourself to leave your comfort zone so that you can grow and expand. And that's why you're feeling more awake, more aware. And imagine that. Most people only feel that once a year or so, maybe on vacation, trying something new, doing something new, and then they feel a little bit of energy because they tried something new. And then they go back home and they share photos about it and they talk about it for a year. That little teeny weeny event where they were courageous. However, being courageous can be a regular act, a daily act. There's many things you could be courageous about. You could be courageous about talking to that stranger, giving them a compliment, or sending that email saying, I no longer work for you because I do not accept the corruption in your company, for example. Or taking a stand and writing your own thoughts on a blog, or the courage to dress a little differently. Every day offers dozens of opportunities to expand your level of courage, your level of braveness, until at one point you feel expanded and wide and confident about everything, including yourself.